Belgrade isn't the kind of city that tries to impress, yet it definitely won us over. In 3 days, we set out to see as many sides of the city as we could and found a place full of raw charm, energy, and plenty to explore. In this video, we'll share with you some of the best things to do in Belgrade, Serbia. To kick things off, we headed straight to Republic Square, located in Belgrade's historic old town. This is the heart of Belgrade and a good starting point for exploring the city. At the center, you'll find a statue of Prince Mihailo, who helped free Serbian cities from Ottoman rule. Locals often say, "Meet me by the horse," since it's such a popular landmark. The National Museum and the National Theatre can also be found here. From here, we walked to Knez Mihailova, Belgrade's bustling pedestrian boulevard. Lined with ornate 19th century buildings, it's a beautiful place to have a stroll, even if you're not shopping. Fun fact, Belgrade has a really good vintage shopping scene. And as we walked down Knez Mihailova, we stumbled upon a cool bazaar with handmade crafts, retro clothes, and antiques. Open every Monday to Sunday. For more of Belgrade's artsy side, we headed to Dorćol, a neighborhood where street art and cool cafes give it a laid-back, too cool for school atmosphere. We stopped at Centrala, a little cafe and bar, a favorite among locals. The atmosphere is relaxed and unpretentious. It's a kind of place where you can just sit with a coffee, chat, and feel part of the neighborhood. For our first evening in Belgrade, we wandered through Skadarlija, the city's bohemian quarter. The cobblestone streets and historic buildings give it a charming, old-world feel, and walking through, you really get a sense of Belgrade's artistic side. Make sure to come by in the evening, as it does come alive with live music from traditional Serbian restaurants. For breakfast, we stopped at this century-old cafe where cakes are still made by hand the traditional way. Rumor has it, the original owner was a personal baker for Tito, the longtime leader of Yugoslavia. The cakes are a bit pricey, but they're good. And the cafe has a charming old-school atmosphere. After breakfast, we wandered over to St. Mark's Church, which is just nearby. It's one of the largest Serbian Orthodox churches, and there are no pews, reflecting the tradition of standing during services. It also houses the tomb of Emperor Dusan, who ruled Serbia in the 14th century. Our next stop was a museum dedicated to the famous Serbian inventor Nikola Tesla. We were really looking forward to it, but they only do guided tours with limited slots. It's incredibly popular, and we came by 3 times, but each time they were at full capacity. We heard some people queue for over 2 hours to get in, but we didn't have the time or patience for that. If you can only visit one church in Belgrade, it has to be the Church of Saint Sava, named after the country's first archbishop. The gorgeous exterior is inspired by Hagia Sophia, but it's the inside, covered top to bottom in gold, that truly takes your breath away. Even if you're not religious, this is definitely a must visit if you're in Belgrade. Next, we took a quick ride to the Museum of Yugoslavia. This stop is essential for anyone wanting to understand Belgrade and Serbia's complex history. Belgrade was the capital of the former Yugoslavia, and the museum tells the story of the country's past, its socialist era, and the life of Josip Broz Tito, the most influential figure in Yugoslav history. What's particularly interesting is the array of gifts leaders have gifted Tito from far and wide.
And your heart ain't feeling right. I love to steal up all of them, say goodbye to pain and sorrow every day and every night.
The museum is also home to the House of Flowers, where Tito lived and where his mausoleum sits. Even today, he remains a beloved figure for many Serbians. His death in 1980 shook the nation, and his funeral was one of the largest of the 20th century.
This is living don't come easy.
Our day wrapped up at the Belgrade Waterfront, a fancy, modern neighborhood built along the Sava River. With sleek high-rises, shining malls, and riverside promenades, it feels like a completely different side of the city. The next day, we hiked up to the Belgrade Fortress. Dating back to the 2nd century, it has guarded the city through countless battles from medieval sieges to World War I. Outside the military museum, you also find an open-air display of tanks, cannons, as well as armored vehicles from the past. The Victor Monument, built in 1928 to mark Serbia's World War I victories, is possibly the fortress' most iconic landmark, and it grabs attention in more ways than one. While you're here, don't miss this unique Serbian Orthodox church located in the Belgrade Fortress. The building was once used as a gunpowder store before being turned into a church in the 19th century. Look closely and you'll notice something unusual. The chandeliers are made from swords and bullet casings crafted by soldiers after World War I. After exploring the fortress, we took a bus across the river to New Belgrade, a post-World War II urban grid and a brutalist masterpiece. This part of the city feels completely different from the old town, almost dystopian-like. Back then, the goal was to build for a rapidly growing city. That's why much of New Belgrade features large concrete blocks and brutalist architecture typical of socialist urban planning that's uncommon now. Many of these buildings are now being redeveloped, so it's a rare chance to see this side of the city before it changes. After exploring New Belgrade, we hopped on a bus and headed to Zemun, a neighborhood that again feels like a completely different world. That's because while in the 18th century when Belgrade was under Ottoman rule, Zemun came under the Habsburgs. That's clear in Zemun's architecture and its charming Central European atmosphere, which feels very different from the rest of Belgrade. Zemun's old town, with its cobblestone streets, has a village-like charm. The one-story, colourful houses almost make you feel like you're walking through Central Europe. We sadly missed the Zemun's farmers market, which closes at 2 PM. From there, it's just a short 10-minute walk to Gardoš Tower. Along the way, you get some great panoramic views of the town and the Danube River. The 19th century stone lookout sits atop Gardoš Hill, but since we were tired, we decided to skip climbing to the top. Instead, we headed to one of Zemun's oldest and most historic sites, the Church of St. Nicholas. Built between 1745 and 1752, the Baroque-style building is small but full of character, with detailed carvings and beautiful frescoes. We ended the day with a walk along the Danube, soaking in the riverside vibes of Zemun. Then stopped at a local cafe for coffee and cake. Before we wrap up, here are a few things to know before exploring Belgrade. First, public transport in the city is completely free. We used it extensively, simply hopping on and off buses, trams and trolleys. Google Maps made navigating super easy, so getting around Belgrade is a breeze. If you need a ride-share option, we can recommend using the app Cargo, as Uber doesn't operate in Serbia. If you are wondering where to stay in Belgrade, a great location is Skadarlija. There are plenty of restaurants, bars and cafés within walking distance, so everything you need is close by and it's safe to walk around. We stayed in this spacious apartment there that had literally everything two backpackers could want, like a kitchen and laundry amenities. And one last tip before we wrap up. In Belgrade, locals will happily talk history, food or football. But one thing you probably shouldn't bring up is Kosovo. And that's exactly where we're heading next, the city of Prizren, often called Kosovo's cultural capital. Click here to watch our video.